You're watching the News Hour at 9, debate number 1, on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And joining me on the News Hour tonight, GVL Narasimha Rao, Member of Parliament and National Spokesperson of the BJP, Dr Anand Ranganathan, author, Colonel Dinny, Defence Analyst, Dr Santanu Sen, Member of Parliament and spokesperson of the Trinamool Congress, Akshay Marathe, spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. But my first question goes to Sanjay Jha, author, suspended leader of the Congress Party. And Sanjay Jha, I want to ask you, do you agree with Mr. Bhupesh Baghel, who says the biggest problem is that people who come out of the army after 4 years will then begin to train Naxalites in various states like Chhattisgarh? Do you believe and agree Ashok Gehlot, who says these are RSS cadre who are being brought into the army? Are we now going to stoop down to this level? And what about the toolkit that has emerged in 2 cities for now, which is egging on people to go out on the streets? And they're not using the word Virod. They are using the word which says that aapko jaake Aakrosh dikhana hai. I want to ask you, is there somebody who's egging these young students on?
Well, Navika, in my opinion, having seen not just the visuals over today, but since the entire agitation began, and let me tell you at the very beginning, the violence is reprehensible. We need to condemn it. The destruction of public property or inconveniencing citizens of our own country has to be, repudiated in the strongest possible term. So I'm going to be unambiguous on that score. As far as I think the statements made by both Mr. Baghel and Mr. Gehlot are concerned, exaggerated as they are, I think what they are trying to highlight, however, is the social cost of joblessness. I'll give you an example. In any society, in any economy, when large sections of a young working force population does not have a job, then what you are seeing, these violent manifestations of the last couple of days, which are terribly ugly, they are a consequence of that frustration, that anger, that simmering, kind of discontent with what's going on with their life. And I think that's exactly what they were saying, although they gave it a political rhetoric. I'll just give you 2 data points, Navika, because you got a very eminent panel. Roughly 43% of our working age population, which is an astonishing 900 million. I mean, that is a big demographic dividend story all of us said abroad as to why India is a great country with an absolutely outstanding workforce. But if only 43% have a job, you're basically saying that nearly 500 million young people in the country are either part of some self-employed disguised unemployment, or they are part of some contractual gig economy having no security, and therefore they are extremely vulnerable at the periphery of basic economic needs. And I think that is exactly what is happening. If you look at the Agnipath scheme, there are positives in that. If we were in government, I would possibly believe that we would work on something similar. But the problem here is that the joblessness has accumulated to an alarming level over the last 8 years. And because the BJP has been winning elections relentlessly, I think they have taken the eye off the ball. Thinking that it's okay, we will figure it out, there is a structural unemployment, it will sort itself out. It doesn't. And I think today, if you have still 5 to 10 million jobs that are required per year, and the Prime Minister after 8 years promises 1 million, and that too in government jobs, it tells you that as a society, and forget politics for a while, we have a huge social problem, not just an economic.
I understand your concern on jobs, Sanjay Jha, but the army recruitment or the Agniveers and the scheme of Agniveers is not a job guarantee scheme. For that, the Prime Minister announced 10 lakh separate jobs that were going to be given. So, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, I want to ask you, is this something that political parties are deliberately picking on to try and make this out to be the biggest job guarantee scheme that has gone awry? Or do you think, they genuinely don't understand the difference between the Agniveer scheme and the scheme for employment of 10 lakh people that the Prime Minister announced separately?
Good evening, Navika, and good evening to all my esteemed fellow panelists. I think it's a combination of both. The waters are being deliberately, muddied by a lot of people who are taking the discussion towards jobs and joblessness. Whereas the fact of the matter is, as I elaborated yesterday, Navika, that there are reasons for which I support this Agniveer scheme or Agnipath scheme. And one of them is, as the late General Rawat had said, that the army is not an employment guarantee scheme, it's not Manrega. And if you were to look at the average recruitment per year for the last 7 or 8 years or even before that, every year, the defense forces recruit about 45 to 55,000 per year. That's it. So not more than 50,000 or 45,000 odd Agniveers are going to be recruited every year. Is that going to alleviate the joblessness problem in this country? So let's not muddle the water. Let's not, that's a separate discussion. And on joblessness, I am prepared to debate with my good friend Sanjay Jha. His figures, I am afraid, are a flight of fancy. They're not actually true to what the real situation is. I would give him this though, that 91% of all jobs in this country are in the informal sector. So he's right on that count, that whatever figures the government gives, at best can be through a survey or through their EPFO, which is only for the 9% which is in the formal sector. So joblessness is an issue. But as I said, that's a separate matter, because I want from the Congress or the opposition data, the following data, which is when they were in government, UPA, how many jobs did they create per ready labor force in each of those 10 years that they ruled the government? How many? Unless you have that data, you cannot compare to what NDA is doing with anything. So that's a separate matter. But can I please come, Navika? Can I please have 2 minutes? Because the discussion was something else. The discussion was on this anarchy on display on account of Agnipath. And it is deplorable and totally unacceptable. These anarchists know that while they can get Rahul Gandhi to amplify their cause, what they can never get is the vote. That's the real show of strength. But because it happens every 5 years, the anarchists get 4 years to create mayhem. The flanking 6 months obviously are spent by them to recover from their defeat and lost deposits. I think Japan's Shinzo Abe had really cracked it. Any big reform that he put on the table, he called for a general election. And after he won it, he brought in that reform. Don't think can happen in India, but you get the drift. The essence of anarchism, Navika, is to amplify the tiny minority and make it appear as a huge majority. And the only reply to that is the vote of the huge majority. Perhaps the time has come for the silent majority of farmers and students to come out and say they support these reforms through petitions or peaceful legal marches. Because right now, the world is being hoodwinked by these idiots into believing that all farmers and all students are opposed to these reforms. And finally, let me tell you bluntly, Navika, just 30 seconds. The anarchists are always watching the proceedings with a keen eye, always looking for a crack. And when they see the government, the Supreme Court, the press, the media as weak and scared, from Shaheen Bagh to 370 to farm laws to blasphemy protests and now this, they sense their opportunity and they swoop like vultures. In wanting to halt Modi, these deranged anarchists are halting India. And right now, they can make any sane Indian believe that there's a ring of truth in that half funny, half bombastic Modi meme, where he's looking straight at you and saying, in reality, they are not after me, they're after you. I'm just in the way. And as for Narendra Modi himself, Navika, just 10 seconds. Here is an appeal to him. Tu thakega na kabhi, tu thamega na kabhi, tu mudega na kabhi. Kar shapat, kar shapat, kar shapat, Agnipath, Agnipath, Agnipath.
Well said, Anand Ranganathan. I want to ask Dr. Santanu Sen. Dr. Santanu Sen, somewhere or the other, is the opposition guilty of fanning the fires because they see an opportunity to take on Narendra Modi, their pet hate? Because that is what it seems like. There may be a few people who have problems or in communication, in understanding of the scheme. It's a reform. It will take time to trickle down. There will be questions that come in. But where is there space for anarchy? And why does the opposition not issue one single appeal saying, guys, stop. If you want a job in the army, this is the short way of losing the opportunity to get there. Because if you're caught in the modern technological world, CCTV cameras capturing you, creating arson and, burning up public property, then that's the short way of losing an opportunity, because you will never get a police verification. Why can't the opposition come out and say this? Because this is the youth of the country. This is not about Modi versus some other political party. This is about our children, our next generation. Why don't we see that sense of maturity coming in from opposition parties, Dr. Santanu Sen? And you're a member of parliament. Can we rise above our personal politics and look at the future of the next generation?
Navika, first of all, I would like to miss the opportunity to congratulate you for your recent achievements, very recent achievements. Congratulations.
Sure, sir.
And secondly,
also an FIR, not just one, maybe a couple of FIRs from your state coming my way. Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing freedom of expression.
And secondly, I hope I won't be interrupted in between till I quickly finish my points. The problem is, our present central government wants us to live in fool's paradise, number one. The second problem is, they don't even take any lesson from the history. If you go through the history, you will see in 1971 it has been proved that part-time soldiers cannot win the battle. So our government hasn't taken any lesson from the history. And thirdly, 2 consecutive callous events of this government has set our entire country on fire perpetually. And you are talking about the announcement of 10 lakh jobs by Narendra Modi. We still remember the promise of 2 crore jobs per year. Then in last 8 years, it could have been 16 crores. But in reality, per year job giving rate is less than 1 lakh. And now he is giving another lollipop of 10 lakhs of jobs in coming 1.5 years. You tell me, had your child or my child would have been interested to join army, and if he knows that there is no certainty of his job after 4 years, will he take the life risks to save the country? Number one. Number two, normally, I tell you one data provided in Parliament on 10th of December 2021, it said categorically that there is a shortage of army by 1,04,053. Now you tell me, normally a person who is joining army is given a training of 44 months. In the Agnipath scheme, he will be given a training of 26 months only. Now, number one, these half-trained soldiers, they will be sent to the borders to save our life. And secondly, after 4 years, when they will be absolutely jobless, they will be jobless at their young age, at the age of 23, 24, 25. What they will do? Who can give you the guarantee that they won't be using those arms which are supposed to be used to defend us, to protect us against the society, to earn their livelihood?
Okay.
Who can give you the guarantee? Who can give you the guarantee, madam? And lastly, you tell me, whosoever agitates, one second, madam, whosoever agitates for their greater interest, be it a farmer or be it a job seeking youth, he or she becomes anti-social before the eyes of central government. He or she becomes anti-national before the eyes of the central government. If we none of us suppose this side of violation. But if we say these are anti-socials, as has been said by the BJP leaders, these agitations started from BJP ruled states, then why so much of anti-social activities are taking place in BJP ruled states?
Well, GVL Narasimha Rao, respond to the volley of charges made by the Trinamool Congress Member of Parliament at you.
I think I'm at a loss to understand as to what is it that has really angered the opposition about the government's announcement. Is the government, is the opposition scared that this 10 lakh jobs announced by the Honorable Prime Minister, that 10 lakh jobs will be offered in the government? It certainly has opposition parties which have paid only a lip service to filling up jobs. Our friends from the Trinamool Congress, how many lakh jobs have you offered in the state government in the last? You have been in power. How many lakh jobs have the governments of Maharashtra, Rajasthan, and Punjab? How many lakhs have they offered? They have only been paying a lip service. I think they are scared that Honorable Prime Minister's announcement of these 10 lakh jobs and 46,000 in armed forces will cause a body blow to their political prospects in parliamentary elections. They are scared about it. Therefore, they are egging on the youth. They are misguiding the youth. I'm confident there will be millions of youth who would want to avail this opportunity, not only to serve their country, but also to get trained and to have this label of...
1 minute. Allow me to come in. Dr Santanu Sen, I have a request for you. When one panelist is speaking, let's not interrupt each other, because I'll, be unable to hear something that somebody says, and then you will put another FIR against me, and I will be in the dock because somebody has said something unparliamentary. Please, you're a lawmaker. Please do not accuse me of breaking the law when you are yourself breaking the law, Dr. Santanu Sen. I urge you, if you want to rebut, I will give you an opportunity to rebut. But if you keep speaking, I can't make out. And if something unparliamentary is said, then please don't have your police running after me. Thank you very much. GVL, please continue.
Yeah. Navika, you see, this is a bogey that has been raised by the which are trying to egg on the youth because they are scared that the announcements by the government will hit them hard by their political prospects, because they have failed people in their states where they are in power. People, when they were in power for 10 years before they came to power in the central government. So therefore, I think these protests will subside. I will see certainly millions of youth wanting to join the army as an Agniveer, and there may be many. Let me also tell you this. There will be thousands of them who will volunteer not to continue after 4 years and rather pursue alternate careers or look for self-employment opportunities, where the government has assured that they will all be given opportunities to get bank loans besides getting a 12 lakh paycheck after completion of 4 years. And we see, Navika, wherever we see ex-servicemen in villages, in towns, even those who have retired and gone back, they are doing great service to the society by recruiting thousands of, not only making your army younger, making it to fight fit, but will also ensure that there are thousands, tens of thousands of these people who go back to serve the society and bring in certain calm into the society from the anarchists that these people want to create, from the anarchism that TMC and their friends.
Let me get in Mr. Marathe, spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. Mr. Marathe, I want to ask you. There are questions, there are doubts, there are gaps in the communication. I grant all of that. But I want to ask you, why has there been no appeal from any politician to come out and say, hey guys, calm down, don't do arson. You don't have to burn trains. We are asking the questions and we will get you the answers. That's what the beauty of our democracy is. And we are all asking those questions. We are all getting those clarifications. Viewers call in, they send us the questions. The media is doing their job of asking the questions to fill in the gaps. Mr. Marathe, why can't our democracy be mature enough? And why do we have every time a toolkit that emerges? There are people of the training mafia, academy mafia, which are trying to tell people to come out on the streets. Virod mat karo, aap Aakrosh dikhao, and then we have these WhatsApp groups that begin to say, come out and we must set an example. How do you set an example in this country? By burning our own property? How can these people then, who are egged on by others, want to go into the army, which is the very, very disciplined force where they want to have a career?
Navika, I completely agree with you. And as possibly the youngest panelist on your show right now, allow me a few minutes to express my views. I, on behalf of the Aam Aadmi Party, want to actually make the appeal that we should not engage in these kinds of activities. Anybody who is angry about the Agniveer Yojana should not engage in any kind of anti-social activities. This is an appeal that the Aam Aadmi Party is making. I'm making on your show. But what is more unfortunate, Navika, is the pattern of this government's policy making. You remember what happened when the farm laws came out. They said we have to do this for the farmers, but the farmers were not understanding their farm laws. If the government wants to engage in a serious policy reform, the first step it should be taking is to open a wide consultative process. We are a democracy. It doesn't mean that once in 5 years we vote for our government and then that's it. Then we will do whatever the government wants us to do and we have to sit quietly. That is not a democracy. If the Modi government had been serious about ensuring the smooth implementation of this program, they should have opened a consultative dialogue. They should have asked the youth who have been preparing for.
I'm sorry. I'm losing the network with Akshay Marathe. Okay.
Are you able to? Are you able to hear
now
me
I can hear you. Yes, please go on.
Yeah, the limited point I was making is that I have several friends who have been preparing for the armed forces recruitment for several years. And they do feel betrayed. There is a genuine sense of betrayal because this was not communicated to them in advance. For the last 2 years, the recruitment was not opened for the armed forces. So now they are feeling that suddenly this has been thrown at them and now they have nowhere to go. I welcome the government's change of the upper limit from 21 to 23, but this is so half-hearted and it's too late. Now there is a trust deficit between the government and the youth of this country. It is up to the government now, not the opposition parties, to break this trust deficit. It is the government's job to now take back the Agnipath Yojana, open a dialogue with the students, open a dialogue with the youth, and explain to them what their intention is. Otherwise, how can you blame them for not understanding the scheme? This is exactly what we saw in the farmer protest also, and it's unfortunate because for 1 year the BJP spokespersons would come on TV channels and defend it, but then Prime Minister Modi had to roll back the reforms. I'm afraid that something is going to happen and Mr. Narasimha Rao will have to come out and say, oh, we are sorry, we have to roll back the Agnipath scheme. I'm afraid that.
Okay, so this is all about a rollback. The opposition has tasted blood. It wants a rollback. Hands are going up. Hands are going up on the panel. Dr. Ranganathan, to you first, and then going across to GBL and Sanjay Jha as well. Dr. Ranganathan.
Navika, let me make one quick point before Mr. Ranganathan. I respect Mr. Ranganathan.
Yes, thanks, Navika. No, Akshay has made... Now, Akshay...
Dr. Ranganathan, give me 1 second, please.
Akshay.
Sorry, sir. Yeah.
All right, please go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Just because you're younger than I am, I give you this.
Thank you so much. Dr. Ranganathan, I was hearing you speak earlier, and you were saying that this is not a permanent employment guarantee scheme. And I just want to very respectfully say that you are a senior academic who has a tenured position in a central university. You will have benefits. You will have a lot of government security for your job, and that's very warranted, a very important part of our society. But what about the people who are going to serve in the armed forces and going to lay down their lives for us? Don't they deserve the same kind of salary, the same kind of post-retirement pension, the same kind of benefits for a long term for their job security? We want them to give their lives for our country, but we don't want to give them the dignity of their labor. Is this not wrong? Don't you think this is unfortunate?
Anand, go on.
Okay, can I respond now, Navika? Yes, thank you. So I need 2 minutes. I want to make a suggestion where I want to glean from the excellent points that my good friend Akshay has made. And I also want to be critical of a couple of points he's made. So first of all, Akshay, even though right now I'm at JNU and I can only be sacked, that too after a very protracted battle by the President of India, But the fact is that for 17 years of my life, once I started running my lab in India, I was not in a tenured position. My contract was renewed after 11 months, every 11 months. So, you know, it comes with the territory. You have to accept it. That is what private sector and public sector are. That's a separate matter. Incidentally, when you talk about consultations not happening, for example, you talked about farm laws. Let me remind you that the 3 farm laws were there almost verbatim in the Congress manifesto. Some of them substantially were there in the AAP Punjab manifesto. The consultations went on for 16 years. They were gleaned from the Swaminathan committee. So it's not true that the farm laws were actually just a figment, procured from thin air. Now, Navika, let me come to what Akshay has said, and that he makes a very substantive point, which is, if I can paraphrase that, what I want to say, Navika, I'll just take a minute. It's very important, and I hope the others appreciate what I'm trying to say here. BJP or the government is a billion-dollar corporation, and I will never tire of repeating this, that while the Congress is a master at deception, the BJP is a disaster at perception. Let me tell you what I mean by this. They could so easily tweak this. Let me give you the data. So as I've already told you, only 50,000 people would be recruited in Agniveer every year. After 4 years, 12,500 of them would be taken up by the army again. 37,500 of them won't be. Do you know this data, that the sanctioned strength of Indian police force is 2.8 million. Right now, the employment of Indian police force is only 1.8 million. There is a shortfall of 1 million. Those 37,500 can be taken up by the Indian police force every year for the next 30 years. Like in the IIT JEE entrance, you have the mains exam, and some of them who are ranked, they qualify for the advanced to go into the IITs. The others can go to regional engineering colleges. So the BJP could easily have said that those 37,500 who won't be taken up by the army permanently would be recruited by the Indian Police Service that has a shortfall of 1 billion. This could have easily assuaged a lot of people who are talking about unemployment and employment. This is what I mean. When you say that we've been talking about this, developing this policy for 1.5 years. अरे भाई दो चीजें करो, एक ये समझाओ कि जो 37,500 है उनको इंडियन पुलिस फोर्स चलेगी, उसमें शॉर्टफॉल है. नंबर 2, at the day of the launch, you don't tweak the launch by saying, all right, sorry, we didn't realize that we didn't fill the shortfall for the last 2 years, so let us increase the age from 21. अरे यार ये लोगों को outrage करने की जरूरत क्यों दी? ये पहले ही कर देते. Didn't you know that for 2 years you haven't recruited anyone because of COVID? You could have easily done it yourself, rather than, a clamor for you to do it. This is what I mean. When you thrash heads together, and this is where Akshay has a good point. When you thrash heads together, let them be apolitical. Let people from everyone come and say, look, this will make this policy great. This will make, this tweaking will make it great. This is what I mean. So now, why don't at least the BJP ruled states come up and say, look, those 37,500 is going to fill up the vacancy in the Indian police force.
Narasimha Rao, there are assurances. There's nothing in writing. And careers are not built on assurances. Everybody will have a genuine doubt in their mind that this assurance can change tomorrow, because governments change every 5 years in every state. Assurances is not enough for people. So is there a gap in communication, or is there a gap in announcing a full policy? Because even now, while Agniveer policy has been announced, what will be the recruitment rules? When will those notifications come out? How do people apply? What's the process? When will it begin? No details anywhere. And is that the reason that these doubts and these gaps in information are creating this kind of reaction on the streets?
The Navika, because people know it does take a few days or a few weeks for the government to come out with a notification about this. People do know this. But let me expose the two parties on the panel. Claims as if giving out great jobs. This Delhi government, which has been in office for 7 years, all that they have done, Arvind Kejriwal fraudulently claims he has given some 12 lakh jobs. In an RTI reply recently, the information that was given by the state government, that they have given 3,246 jobs in 7 years. This is the great Aam Aadmi Party which lies creating 12 lakh jobs, 3,000 jobs. And the so-called this Trinamool Congress has wiped off 5.5 lakh jobs only a few months ago. So the youth in Bengal have to run to the rest of the country for any employment. They must be shameless in claiming that then they are pro-youth, they are creating employment, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has announced that 10 lakh jobs in all government departments which are vacant will be filled up in a mission mode. And this is what is causing the burn in the stomach of leaders like Arvind Kejriwal and other opposition leaders. They are scared. They are scared. How are they going to convince their electorate? You can claim. So how can you, will the friend from Aam Aadmi Party be able to counter this claim? This is by the RTI. 3,246 jobs.
My friend GVL Narasimha Rao, you know, politics is not going to answer the questions that students have. And Colonel Dilly,
no,
I'm running out of time. I want to ask you one question. The scheme is good, but do you agree there are still some unanswered questions that are creating these doubts, and which is where the problem really arises and being exploited by politicians, and why won't they?
Oh, absolutely, ma'am. There is no doubt that the scheme is good, but as soon as this fog of so-called arson and all move out, and when wisdom will be prevail upon the youth, I think they will see the merit in it. As of now, as what Dr. Ranganathan was mentioning, there are many issues which can be fixed. And even this policy, I don't think anybody would say that this is the final. The policy will evolve itself in the future, and that is how armed forces, there is a flexibility which is there. So that much patience people have to show that there is here is a plan, and here are now we are going to implement it. And as and when there are feedback, there is mechanism in place where those changes can be incorporated. It has happened in the past. I don't see any reason why it can't happen in the future too.
Well, very well said, and that's what we are looking forward to. One request that goes from all of us tonight here, and I'm sure my panelists will support me in putting that consensus request out. And I'm taking the consensus for granted because everybody has condemned the arson and the violence that we've seen. All those who want to join the army, discipline is the first requirement. You have doubts? Well, we are with you. We're asking the questions, we'll get you the answers. Wherever there are lacunae, please write in to us. Your questions will be answered, and we will get you those in power to come and sit here and answer each and every question, the last one till it is answered. We will also not rest in peace. But in the meanwhile, arson is not the answer. And I request all political parties to join hands with this appeal to everybody to come to look at the entire